Can you help me at all?
Why can't we get it?
And we need the boots.
And now we get into our first battle.
10 arrows!
Do we? Oh,
The lantern.
My fucking god!
There's the fucking lantern.
He has a level 45 Delcatty, and we have a level 95 Kadabra. What Pokemon moves do we know?
Please don't be a boss room. I have nothing.
You both get birds!
You get back!
Damn it, I feel dumb. In the comments are gonna yell at me and make me feel more dumb.
Oh my god. Are we stuck here?
No.
Volt tackle!
Volt tackle!
Why did someone pick the volt tackle?
Video games are a very unique medium. Interactive on a multitude of levels, it can be really difficult to replicate the sense of wonder of your first playthrough. From the pacing being put in the hands of the player themselves to the magic of discovery, this isn't something you typically get to experience more than once with any given game. Your first time is always special. However, what if I told you that there was a way to recreate this magic? That for some games you could relive your first playthrough almost endlessly. Yes, it's real and it's not some fortune cookie BS, but before we get into that, I want to back up for a second and take a look at some common threads of game design. That's right, we're barely a minute in and it's already time for a tangent. When it comes to games, even if it's not a video game, there's usually a set of pillars of design. How the game works, what the objective is, what type of game it is, how are the players going to interact with it. And while not present in every game, a lot of developers will use items to block off your progression and exploration. Do you want to get to this area or find these secrets? You need a certain item. How do you get that item? Well, you progress through the story and find other things in the world. Sometimes this opens up backtracking, allowing you to go back to previous areas and explore new avenues at your own pace, a core tenet of the Metroidvania genre, for example. Now this is a very, very generalized look at how some games allow the player to interact with their world, but many utilize this to some extent. For example, in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, the player is given the slingshot in the very first dungeon, allowing them to complete certain puzzles and hit things from range. Without it, you can't complete this dungeon. This continues to apply for every single dungeon in the game, each one housing a unique item that opens up puzzles and progression. But what if the item in that chest wasn't the slingshot? What if it was something else that forced you to completely rethink your understanding of a game? To test your knowledge and expertise, knowing all the possible ins and outs of a game's route in order to somewhat easily make it through. That, my friends, is the goal of a randomizer. A video game randomizer is exactly what it sounds like. It's a mode, typically in the form of a fan-made mod, but not always, that randomizes a plethora of elements in the game. The extent of the randomization usually depends on the mod itself or player input during the mod's setup, but a basic example would be a Pokemon randomizer, where all the Pokemon you could encounter in an area would be completely random. So instead of finding a Bidoof or Starly on Route 201 in Pokemon Diamond, maybe you'll find a Blastoise or Lucario instead. And this is just one minor example of what a randomizer is capable of. Creators like Small Ant have played through some of the Pokemon games where after every single battle, the Pokemon in their team randomly changes. It changes the Pokemon, it changes the level, it changes everything. Or in Dark Souls, where you can randomize the exits of every fog wall in the game, completely changing how you traverse the entire world and what order you complete objectives in. The sky is the limit with the randomizer subgenre. It can go as far as the game in question will allow it. Now, if you're a little lost, you might be wondering how something like this is possible. How is it that someone can beat a game where potentially anything or everything can be randomized? Well, it really isn't that bad, if I'm being completely honest. However, I can understand how it may appear overwhelming. You see, randomizers utilize what we call logic. Essentially, logic is a set of rules that determines what can go where. Sure, everything is placed randomly, but in a standard randomizer, nothing will ever be placed in a location that you physically can't reach. This prevents something called hard locks. For example, any Super Metroid randomizer, the Morph Ball upgrade, which allows you to turn into a tiny ball to traverse small tunnels, will never be somewhere you can only reach if you already have the Morph Ball. A basic randomizer should always be able to be completed. Okay, so I've teased you so far. I've talked about what they are and how they work on a fundamental level, but what games can you even randomize? Well, boy, oh boy, let me tell you, there's a lot. So many, in fact, that I found a website that has a massive list of them. And I'm sure this isn't even all of them, like it most definitely isn't all of them. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of my favorites. any game that has been graced with From Software's name on it is usually prime for a randomizer. Randomizing enemies, items, or the aforementioned fog walls really changes things up and provides a much fresher experience than something like New Game Plus normally would, mostly because it changes your order of progression or forces you to explore areas you would normally skip over for key items. But random access to weapons is also a big factor. To really sell the magic for you, sit down for story time, okay? This is a tale of adventure, of sorrow, joy, and everything in between. A few years ago, shortly after Christmas, I was staying over at a friend's house for his birthday with a few other buddies. And at the time, we had a newly found tradition of trying a new Dark Souls mod every year. And as the person with the laptop to run the game, I was in charge of picking the mod. And the mod I chose was the Fog Wall Randomizer. Now, for the uninitiated, Dark Souls has a series of fog walls that act as loading zones. This mod spawns every fog wall in the game at once, and walking through one warps you to the exit of another one, randomly. And the neat part is, both sides of the wall will take you someplace different. I guess I already said that, because you get the point. I just double stated what I was talking about. But the point is, for hours, we played, taking notes, driving ourselves insane, forgetting where we came in from and where places went, trying to rack our brains for any way forward until we could then grind to a halt once again after we had just barely made progress. But eventually, something amazing happened. So the normal game, right, base Dark Souls, has a hub area in the form of Firelink Shrine. It connects to a multitude of places throughout the world, and you can get almost anywhere from there from the very start. Well, we ended up creating our own Firelink Shrine inside of another place in Orlando. You see, there were so many fog walls that by the time we opened all of the shortcuts inside of Anne Orlando normally, it became the new hub that connected us to the rest of the game. So almost anywhere we needed to be could be accessed in some way through Anne Orlando, and it was the perfect showcase of what this mod was capable of. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it still sticks with me to this day. Now, there's one more randomizer specifically that I want to touch on. One that I personally believe takes the crown. That is the pinnacle of what a randomizer can be, at least from my own personal experience with them. And that one is the Super Metroid Link to the Past Combo Randomizer, otherwise known as SMZ3. Now, what is a combo randomizer? What the hell does that mean? Well, one day, a bunch of psychopaths thought to themselves, you know, maybe it would be kind of cool if we just, jammed these games together and made people beat both of them. That's right, it's 2 games in one with all of their items randomized between them, and you gotta beat both. Alright, so I'm gonna slow down and tell you how this madness works. Careful not to lose your pants if you're still wearing any. So there's a few rooms in both Super Metroid and Link to the Past that didn't serve a whole lot of purpose. So some people just took those rooms and kinda just connected them. So you start out playing Super Metroid, but you go through this door, bam, now you're in Link to the Past, baby. You might find Zelda items while in Metroid, or Metroid items while in Zelda, who knows? Go beat the game. I absolutely love this mod. Maybe it's just the dopamine I get from finding useful items, but I really can't get enough of watching or playing it. And you know what the best part of this is? There are people out there who race each other at randomizers. So the main place I've seen this is over on this YouTube channel called Speed Gaming. They do a lot of stuff, but the races are what drew me in. There's a bunch of different formats, my favorite being the 4-way community race. So here's how it works. They get 4 people, throw them all into the same randomizer seed, so the randomization is the same between them, right? And they say who can beat it first. They have announcers and on-screen item trackers, and you can see a POV of all the racers, but the racers can't talk to each other, right? And it's just really a joy to watch this go down. It's like my version of, dude, forget the Super Bowl. This is kind of like my, sports thing, my Super Bowl. It's so much fun. And I just love the concept of randomizers so much, man. They breathe a lot of life into games new and old and really just provide a different sort of perspective. And I think you should go try one. My favorites are for games like Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon, etc. But there's randomizers for a lot of games out there. So try it out. You might just find a new hobby. Actually, you know what? I love randomizers so much, I'm gonna let it make my life choices for me from now on. Well, I'm